We have a little bit of a announcement meets special episode
Yeah.
meets storytelling.
I mean, just all the things. I think that we have been on a very incredible, amazing journey,
Yes.
and now things look very different. So I think it's so important for us to talk about that and just share where we're at. This episode is really all the feels. I just have so
Yeah.
many emotions. But I think we just need to start off by just talking about how we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By now, if you haven't heard the announcement, we'll give you a
Yeah.
little
Yes.
context. After 8 years at HoneyBook,
Mhm.
I am transitioning into a new role as head of community at Flowdesk. A big part of that is that I've been the host of the podcast now for the past 7-8 months for season 1,
Yeah.
and it's been so much fun.
Yes.
And we've gotten to work on that together, which has been a blast. But with this transition, the time has come to pass the baton and to bring on a new host
New
for season
host.
2.
Yes.
I wonder who it is.
I don't know, girl. I don't know who it could be. I do know she's pretty dope.
She is. She's pretty incredible. No, we're so excited to have you jumping in and joining us today for this conversation because, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm transitioning out. If you saw that on social already, if you haven't, go check out HoneyBook Social. We are celebrating
Mhm.
our brand new host today. We are
Yes.
celebrating the one and only Akua Konadu, who is
Hey.
going to be taking this podcast to new heights and leading us into season 2.
Yeah, I'm number one, just so grateful and so excited. But it's just wild the journey. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I have been working on the podcast from the very beginning behind the scenes, creating, like working with topics,
Mhm.
questions, all of that stuff, doing a lot of the episode prep. So it has been such a blast working with you and on the podcast team. Honestly, it has been just a gift, honestly, working beside you. So let's just talk about how we even got here because I'm shook at the story still.
How far back do we want to go?
I don't know.
On a warm summer day in Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Yeah.
we started our friendship.
Yes.
That was the first time we met, the Rising Tide retreat, was
Yeah,
it? In
yeah.
person?
Yeah, that's the first time we met. But I think,
Because I'm going back to the beginning.
you're
You
going,
said
oh,
tell the story.
I didn't think that far
I
back.
was going
But
all the way back to the very origin story of Nat and Akua.
yeah,
before
Nat
the
Nakua. Well,
podcast.
it's honestly just even backtracking a little bit.
Yeah.
Since we are backtracking, it has truly been this is another full circle moment for
It is.
me, because back in 2017, I didn't have a business. I
Mm.
had met a friend and I met her through Google. I just Googled a couple topics and met with her because I ended up finding out that we grew up in the same town, so we were in the same area.
Yeah.
And she told me about this group of community, like a group of people that get together to talk about business. And she told me I should come to the next one. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go. And at that time, I had no business. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I had just graduated college and I was lost. And I just remember that day showing up at Lake Harriet, and it is busy there because it's summers in Minneapolis. So everybody's out before the winter hits. And I don't know what it was, but I just saw throughout the whole mist of a whole bunch of people, just a group of people sitting there. And I walked right up to them and I said, hi, is this a group that like meets once a month to talk about like, I don't know, business stuff? And they were like, yeah. And it was a really, really incredible event. And I just kept going. And I didn't have a business once a month. I just kept showing up every time. And it was wonderful because everybody in that community helped me build my business. And that was when I learned it was Rising Tide. That's when I learned about you. It was like, everybody's like, the Natalie Franke, right? Like everybody was like, oh my gosh, who is she? And like, everybody just spoke so highly of you. And I was like, I don't know who she is, but she sounds great. Just showing up.
She's not, but no. And for folks who don't know, I am one of the co-founders of the Rising Tide Society.
Yes.
And so I had been just one of many people that, was really integral in the beginning and throughout the growth of that community.
The growth and HoneyBook too. And that was the thing. Everybody was talking about HoneyBook and Rising Tide. And so it was through that community. People were like, Akua, I want to help you get your business together. What do you need help with your website?
Yeah.
Let's get your headshots together. I'll help you with copy. So many wonderful people that helped me build my business. And I couldn't have done that without HoneyBook, and I couldn't have done that without you. And I hadn't even met you yet, which is wild. And so I eventually become an RTS leader.
Mhm.
Eventually, and that was fun. And then finally they picked Minneapolis to have our leaders retreat. And there were conversations about it. There were a little bit of emails, but I wasn't really involved in it. I just was like,
Cool.
it's cool, whatever. Just let me know. I'll just show up. My other leaders kind of took the charge in communicating, and you meet so many people, so I don't think you remember our like very first interaction.
Well, I remember you telling me that I knew you.
I didn't know that you knew me.
I know.
Oh, you do remember that interaction.
Yes, I do, because I do meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to Rising Tide, I've always really tried to make an effort to know who the leaders are.
Okay.
And I'm one human, so of course I can't be everywhere all the time. But yeah, of course I knew you.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to meet you.
I remember like thinking, oh, she remembered. I was like, that's so nice. Just feeling so seen.
Yeah.
Because I really had the anticipation. I went up to you and I was like, hey, I'm Akua. You probably don't know me. And you looked at me, you're like, of course I know you. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's so nice to meet you.
Probably with an awkward bear hug that lasted way too long.
It was. And it was so warm and just so kind. And again, like just to be able to feel so seen in that moment, it was really, really awesome. And that was our very first interaction. And then I think again, at the Imperfect Boss Camp was our next interaction. Which was a lot of fun.
That was an experience. We were in the wilderness of Canada in
Yes.
October, which I didn't know was frigid. I didn't come into this knowing it was going to be sub-zero at night.
I think I remember that.
And we
I
had
knew
no
that.
heaters.
Yeah.
We were in bunks.
Yes.
That was trauma bonding at its finest.
I know.
It was the best experience.
It was the best experience, cold and
Gosh.
all, but the food was great. The conversations were great.
The event was phenomenal.
Unforgettable. And I think that was my next interaction with you. And then it's again, like, you just I just got more involved as my business, and I was growing my business. And then starting speaking engagements back in after the pandemic was when I really started speaking on stages. And in 2021, and I got a email from Kate Masters, who was the head of community at the time for Rising Tide, and was like, would you like to come work for the Rising Tide community and HoneyBook? And I was like, well, yeah, because well, number one, it was just my way of paying it forward. I felt like it was a way for me, because I just was like, I get to help and be able to support other small businesses who have done the same for me with nothing in return. Like, that was what I loved so much about the community, is that nobody expected anything from me. It was, how can I help? I don't care. I just want to see you succeed. So
that's so Akua.
Is it? Yeah, thanks.
Your character is just amazing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I would love to, like, the work is just so impactful. So I was like, I want to absolutely help with that, and I want to be there. And that was kind of the first time that I really start to kind of work with you a little bit more behind the scenes, which was really, really great. And with Kate too, and just the RTS team and the HoneyBook team. And number one, I've always worked, with corporations as like a freelancer, a type of contractor. Like I've done that several times. And so I'm not saying it to be like, oh, because I'm on the podcast. HoneyBook is truly one of the best places to work for.
It really is.
Even as a contractor, I have had a phenomenal experience. And so more as my role just kind of just grew and changed. And that was when you had this on your heart about launching the podcast. And we were in Israel, because HoneyBook let me tag along for that trip, which was amazing. So that to me was also another full circle moment. But you were telling me about the podcast, and I remember on the bus we were talking about it, and I was like, well, do you need help? Because I'd love to help you.
And I was like, say less. Yes.
Yes.
You're officially on the team. I know you didn't sign up for this, but now you're stuck with me. What's so funny though is when you were talking about our first interaction in person at the Rising Tide meetup, and you're like, I felt so seen. I felt that way about you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Me.
What?
Yes. So in our work together on the podcast, some of you know, maybe a lot of you don't. When Akua says I've been involved since the beginning, she's humbly saying that she truly built the bones of this podcast. Like, your DNA is throughout everything, from how we ask questions to how we structure the conversations to who we have on the show to, I mean, you name it. Akua has been so instrumental behind the scenes. So one, I will say, having you step into the role of host to me is so exciting. And I said this to you, we were having dinner last night, or like a late lunch, early dinner. And I was like, I almost feel like this is how it was always supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? what? And I was like, no, but really I do, because it's a moment where you built the stage and now you get to stand on what you've built, and you
Yeah.
get to take the mic and you get to level this podcast up even higher and encourage it to thrive. Because we're like, it has created content, and the feedback that we've gotten from the community has just been amazing. And you have such a heart for the community, having come from the business world, having started with no business, built a successful business,
Yeah.
then leveled up into thought leadership spaces, and now having the opportunity to drive this podcast into the future and continue to serve in this way. I am so excited. And as we were creating the podcast, you always made me feel seen, because as we were thinking through, what questions do we want to ask and what conversations do we want to have, you have a way of challenging me to be the best version of myself. And then when you see me stepping into that throughout every hard decision, every, joyful conversation on the podcast, afterwards, I'm feeling like some episodes, some interviews are so easy. Others, I beat myself up after. I'm like, I shouldn't have done this. Akua is the one, though, that will celebrate everyone in her life when they're stepping into who they're supposed to be. And you've been that for me. You've been that for me on the show. You've been that for me as a friend now over the years that we've become closer off, the podcast, and even in making this really hard decision to jump into a new role.
Yeah.
You cried with me. And then once we recovered from our crying, you're like, I'm in. I'm in. I'm ready. And not only that, you were like, I'm happy for you, Nat. Like, I'm ready to cheer you on. Don't you dare. Don't you
I
dare.
came prepared, you guys. You guys already know I already have my little
We're going to cry today.
My little Kleenex to dab the corner of the eye.
And it's just really rare, I think, to find someone who can be that dynamically supportive of you as a human being. And I really thank you for that, because, I've been with HoneyBook for 8 years. This company is extraordinary, and I love it with every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
And leaving is one of the hardest things that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much. Now, I'm not really leaving. I'm still going to be popping up all the time and cheering on and being a HoneyBook educator. And so it's just the full-time work that's changing.
Yeah.
But knowing that, and I believe this, like knowing that you're stepping into this role and you were born to do this and you're going to do such an exceptional job, gets me fired up to listen every single week.
Oh, man.
I can't wait.
Oh, I'm already tearing up. But I think I just go back to when you told me, when you called me on the phone and you had said that you were leaving. And I just remember there was like a silence, because in my mind, I was like, what? Like, season 1 has been incredible. Like, the magic that we have put in and what we've built. And we had a strategy and a plan for season 2.
We did.
And so I was shooketh, because I was like, Miss Ma'am, that is not what we had discussed. Like, this is not what we were supposed to be doing. And, and of course, then I just got really emotional, because, there's so many factors with it. Like, I just have loved working with you and Ruth and, Haley and Tyler,
so
like our
much fun.
podcast team, it's been a blast. And so now things look different, and you don't know what that's going to look like. But then you said to me, you were like, Akua, I think I'm going to suggest that you take over. And I remember instinctively, I instantly was like, no, said it right away. And you were talking about you and your own journey. And this is what made it click for me. And I still had to go back and process it. But you said to me, it was like, Akua, like, I have to be gutsy. And I just kept thinking after that conversation with myself, I'm not going to try to cry. I'm not. I said, she's being gutsy. Like, I got to be gutsy too. I owe it to myself to give this a shot. I owe it to myself to see what this can become. And so I said, all right, we're going to do it. Right. Like, now things just look different, but I'm excited for the journey, and I'm going to lean in as you are going into your journey and going to lean in. So it's like our journeys are very parallel right now, though it's still very different in so many aspects, but it has been so beautiful. And I'm stoked to see what happens to you with and Flowdesk. They are lucky to have you, of course. And like, shout out to Martha and Rebecca too, because they are wonderful. They helped me a teeny bit too in my own entrepreneurial journey back in the day, and they know what it was. So yeah, it just goes to show again the community, even at Flowdesk where you're going, because they are truly, truly amazing. So,
oh gosh,
woo!
I just look, I'm so excited for you. I am so excited for this podcast. And I am so excited for the fact that, we get to live out the values that we talk about so frequently behind the scenes.
Yes.
About supporting others, in this case, women supporting women, of, companies supporting other companies. Like, I love it. Like, we're going to be working in parallel. We are. And you better have me back as a guest on the show.
You are never leaving, honey.
I
Okay?
know. You're stuck with me.
We are in this.
You're stuck with
we
me.
built this together. And so, you're always welcome back. You will always be here, of course. Like, we love you. And the work that you have, I'm literally proof of the work that you have put into the community. And I know I'm not the only person, right? There's so many other business owners that you have impacted in more ways than one. And I definitely know not just me at HoneyBook, but so many other, like all of us are just so grateful for everything that you've done. And we absolutely love you. And we are rooting for you and cheering you on. And we just thank you.
Well, the feeling is so mutual.
Yeah.
And I mean that with every fiber of my being.
Yes.
I can't wait to see you kill it. I can't wait to see you crush it. I'm hitting the subscribe button, and you should too. Hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. And gosh, do we have a lineup for season 2?
Yeah, we do. So I'm so just excited of these amazing business owners that are thrilled to come and be able to provide so much value, just as we've done for season 1. So expect the same type of quality content.
Well, no, it's leveled up.
It's okay.
It's Independent Business 2.0. I've seen the lineup. It is fire.
Yes.
And I know you. I can't wait.
Well, we built it. You were here. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about who we wanted, and we were like, with season 1, it's been phenomenal. So let's shoot for the stars. And so when everything finally was transitioned, I was like, well, this was the plan. Yeah. So why would we change it? Like, you've inspired me to always keep going and just go bigger if you can.
Bigger.
So,
Go
bigger. So that's what we did. So I'm excited.
I'm so excited. And so I can't wait for folks to listen and to tune in.
Yeah.
And I guess this will be my last time on the mic as host, as I officially pass it over to you.
Oh, man. Well, thank you. I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks for listening.
That ends our episode of the Independent Business Podcast. Everything that we've discussed today can be found at podcast.honeybook.com. Head to our website for access to show notes, relevant links, and all of the resources that you need to level up. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss our future content. Drop us a review and leave our guests some love on social. Thanks again for listening.